This is Carmel Bear, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
Why, yes, it is Carmel Bear. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 164th edition of the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast here on November 11th, 2023. Shout out to our veterans. The one closest home to me, I suppose, would be my late grandfather, Mr. Howard Johnson. Shout out to him. He served in Japan in World War II. So big appreciation to all our veterans out there. But yeah, I am one of the hosts, is the Garlic Johnson. We are joined, as always, by our other lovely host, is the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, say hi to the Walters out there.
Hi, folks.
just got to get it in early so Al can be upset later. We appreciate people who chat along in the Discord, just like some of our best fans do. Segment start times will be down in the description below. And thank you at Levi Oki Illustration for all the beautiful art you can see. And I was surprised to learn recently, I don't know if he listens every week or if it was just a fluky happen to listen this week, but even after he left the Discord and stuff, Carmel Bear listened to the most recent episodes. So, you know, I mean, good for him. I thought that man had stopped listening years ago, but apparently Carmel Bear's still out there. So big shout out to him. Big shout out to him and his beautiful artwork. For a reasonable price, Carmel Bear will make you some beautiful artwork as well. Josh, how we doing this Saturday morning?
Oh, we doing, Gar. We doing. How are you?
Well, I'm doing okay. You have any veterans in the family or anything like that?
Yeah, I got quite a few. I won't go through them all. Yeah, got a few.
Okay.
Shout out
to the veterans. All right, Josh. Well, has anything exciting happened for you between Tuesday and now? I feel like we always have to talk about, like, the chit chat can't just be how you doing good. Like, is there anything exciting that's happened for you between Tuesday and now, or anything boring, or anything eventful, or anything terrible? Something. Give us a little something.
I had B-dubs for dinner last night.
Ooh, what was the occasion?
For failing to prepare dinner. But it was, nothing big that I could think of. Next Saturday, we'll have a bit of a difference. I will have an update, but not this week.
Okay. Oh, wow. A little tease for the people. Josh, you tease. All right, well, for me, I've seen a couple movies this week I thought were pretty good. I saw Killers of the Flower Moon. There's a Martin Scorsese film. A little long. Martin Scorsese starting to, put out those 3-hour movies. It was okay. I didn't hate it. I thought some of the visuals of the Osage and some of the way they depicted their tribe were beautiful. Also saw The Marvels on Thursday. That was a really good movie. I know Josh continually likes to hate on Miss Marvel for some reason, but she was easily the best part. Kamala Khan was easily the best part of The Marvels. She does an amazing job acting. She's a breath of fresh air. A lot of people I see comparing her to, like when Spider-Man Tom Hiddleston, or Tom, yeah, is that Hiddleston? Or is that the other one? Doesn't matter. When Spider-Man joined the MCU, it was a breath of fresh air, and I think Kamala Khan is a similar thing these days. So big shout out to The Marvels and Killers of the Flower Moon. Also, Loki Season 2 on Disney Plus just ended. That's amazing. And a lot of screen time this week, but a lot of good projects out there. What have you been watching lately, Josh?
Well, we're finishing up Designated Survivor, Nikita and I. That's a decent show. I guess seasons 1 and 2 are on just the TV programming. I don't even know what channel. And then season 3 was picked up by Netflix, and you can kind of tell that Netflix took over because it is a little bit looser with things, and they try to appeal to. I don't know. They change it. They just decide that they want to add in curse words and scenes that would never ever make it into TV, sure. Obviously, and that are just kind of unnecessary. And so to me it was like, okay, is that really needed? Because it didn't do anything to drive the plot or tell a backstory or anything like that. So Netflix, get your act together. Other than that, myself, I finished Gen V a couple weeks ago. I just finished Queen's Gambit, which was amazing.
Oh, that was a good one.
I watched, and so now I'm just kind of sitting here waiting patiently for the boys. And I don't know if you saw season 4 like teaser, but they say it's coming out in 2024, but they say it takes place shortly after or a couple months after Gen V. So if you haven't seen Gen V, it might be worth plopping down and checking out because you'll need some of that backstory. And then, yeah, now I'm just kind of at a loss as to what to watch next. I'm watching Upload because the next season 3 uploads out, but I'm almost done with or caught up with that. So now I'm just kind of sitting there wondering, what am I going to watch while I bike next?
I mean, I'd throw out. I mean, you've already said it. I don't need to tell you that the service is great, Apple TV. But the Lessons in Chemistry, I'm sure you've seen that advertised on Apple TV. That's pretty good. Severance is really good. You've obviously watched Ted Lasso, right? So,
yep.
It's like Mythic Quest, I think, is on there. That's just a half an hour one. But yeah, Severance or Lessons in Chemistry or Morning Show just concluded. It's done with its 3 seasons. Those are pretty good shows. Anyways, this isn't the TV podcast, but I was curious what you were watching these days. But I appreciate your insight. And yeah, the MCU is about to be on fire, Walters. We'll move on here, Josh. Let's get into the meat of our Saturday morning shows. As we do every Saturday morning, we're going to sit here and we're going to go through some start-sit options, and you and I are going to sit back while Walters takes over our podcast and dominates everyone else with his big log between his legs. How did we do last week, Josh, and why are we terrible?
I plead the 5th. Last week you did fine. Went 3 out of 5. I went 0 and Walters went 2 out of 5. So you did have the best week as far as correct guesses. As far as difference goes, you had a negative 0.8 difference. I had a negative 9.1 difference, and Walters had a positive 40.3 point difference. All because of one player. And so we are going to go. Overall, you are 17 out of 40 with a minus 39. I am 11 out of 40 with the minus 51.75. And Walters is 5 out of 15 with the positive 27.5. Last week was not my best week. I'm just giving you guys a little bit of a cushion. I feel like this is where I'm going to start shining. So plus 100s, that's the way out.
All right, shine bright like a diamond, my friend. Yeah, who could have predicted C.J. Stroud putting up? I think in my most egregious QB scoring league, he put up 80 points. So C.J. Stroud had quite the week.
Well, it wasn't because of C.J. Stroud. It was Tank Dell that got him his points.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying C.J. Stroud was spreading the ball around. Dalton Schultz went off. Tank Dell went off. All thanks to C.J. Stroud, right?
I guess.
Right. All right. Who we got this week, Josh? Who's up first?
Well, I picked first, so you can go ahead and discuss the quarterbacks.
I'm sorry, Josh. Excuse me. I'm used to you going first. In our very first start-sit category here, Josh, we were looking at some quarterbacks, and again, we're usually a bit lower on the tiers of QBs here because you're never gonna decide to sit, or you're never gonna decide between Josh Allen and whoever's on your waiver wire, or Patrick Mahomes and who's on your waiver wire. Those aren't realistic start-sit options. So we're down here a bit for people maybe scraping the waiver wire. But we've got Baker Mayfield, quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, playing versus Tennessee. We've got Brock Purdy, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, playing at Jacksonville, going West Coast to East Coast, baby, coast to coast. And then we've got Jared Goff, quarterback for the Detroit Lions, playing at the Los Angeles Chargers. Josh, if you had to pick one of these boys, who you starting this week and why, between Mayfield, Purdy, and Goff?
Well, I've been a big fan of what Baker Mayfield's been doing this year in in Tampa Bay. But I'm going to go with Jared Goff. He's got a name that sounds like an East Coast person saying golf, and I love golf. He's at the Chargers, whose defense is led by Brandon, defensive mastermind at losing defense, Staley. And so I'm going to go with Jared Goff.
Okay. I think Jared Goff is a very safe pick. I definitely, in the couple leagues I have Jared Goff, I am starting him without question this week. I'm trying to decide right now if I want to be strategic for the game between you and I and Walters, if I want to take Purdy instead, because I think the 49ers will similarly have to put up points on Jacksonville coming out of the bye. But I think I'd rather play safe, and I think I'd rather pick with Goff. So I'm going to say Goff as well, but I was close on Purdy, and Mayfield playing Tennessee did absolutely nothing for me. And Walters did, though. Walters went Purdy. He's trying to outsmart us or out-wrangle us. So two of us take Goff of those three, and Walters takes Purdy. And Josh is done typing now. So, Josh, who's in our running backs category this week?
This week we've got some running backs. Some of them shine brightly. There are a couple rookies in here. One of them is kind of the lead back on his team. The other two are going to be the second options, but have big play capability. So we're going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs at Los Angeles Chargers, Javonte Williams of Denver at Buffalo, or Tyjae Spears of the Tennessee Titans at Tampa Bay.
Tennessee Titans. Well, obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs has broken out the last couple weeks at Baltimore and versus Las Vegas before the bye. He put up, both were 20-point performances in half-point PPR. Had 10 targets and 5 targets, lots of receptions, a touchdown in each game. But then they have the bye week, and now David Montgomery's coming back. And if you look back to start of the season, of course, he's a rookie, and it's hard to know what will happen. But David Montgomery surely is going to eat into some of the snap share. Jahmyr Gibbs had the 87% and a 70% snap share in the last 2 weeks before their bye. That'll not happen with David Montgomery back. So he has the big playability. How much snap share will he get? How many carries or targets will he get? That's tough to say. Javonte Williams also coming off a bye week. He's he's doing the best he has this year, the last couple weeks. He's put up 17 points and 11 points the last 2 weeks. He was not very efficient in week 8, but he's also playing Kansas City, and so it's tough to judge a man for that. He's having minimal receiving work, but it's he's pretty steady. He's usually getting about 3 receptions a game. He had a receiving touchdown last week, which helped boost the score. But that was his only touchdown on the season, so he's normally putting up 7 to 11 fantasy points. And Tyjae Spears, he is obviously Derrick Henry's backup. He's only hit double-digit fantasy points once this year. He does get about 50 to 60% of the snap share. He's been pretty steadily in that for most of the games this year, and he had 4 receptions in their last game with Will Levis at quarterback. I don't know if he'll get any more receiving work, but I feel like I have to go Jahmyr Gibbs here just for the big play ability. He already has 2 touchdowns on the year, which is more than either of these 2 players, so I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh.
Once again, I'm going to agree with you. So far, you and I are showing that we run a podcast together because we have similar takes, which is not necessarily the best.
Maybe you and I have just come together over 6 years of doing a podcast. Our fantasy takes have come together, and through homeostasis, we've become one fantasy mind.
I would say so, and then Walters put in Javonte, but I would say that Spears was kind of a close second. But that run defense for Tampa Bay is pretty solid, so I wouldn't necessarily want to guess that he's going to get a lot of carries or his carries would be very efficient. He does have, I believe he is more used in the pass game. They had him lined up out wide a couple times, I noticed last week on Thursday when I watched the game. And he did get, I believe, 6 targets last week. So they do use him in the pass game, but I do think Gibbs is used in the pass game. They're probably going to ease Montgomery back a little bit. So yeah, plus he's very electric. So I would say I just like Gibbs.
All right, Josh, we'll move on to the wide receiver category. We've got Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, playing at Jacksonville. We've got Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the New York Jets, playing at Las Vegas. And we've got Jordan Addison, wide receiver for your hometown Minnesota Vikings, playing versus Nolans. Josh, if you had to pick between Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, or Jordan Addison, who do you like this week and why?
Well, it may be no surprise to anybody here, but after last week with the New York Jets watching that offense up against the Los Angeles Chargers defense, that is not actually very good, or it hasn't been at least this year. My feelings on Jets offensive players is offensive, actually. And so I'm going to avoid Wilson. Jordan Addison has Josh Dobbs, the big brain man, but the big brain man might not target him like Kirk Cousins does, even if he is at wide receiver 1. And so I do think that as far as the overall order goes, Wilson is last on mine and then Addison is second, but I'm going to go with Ayuk. I do like the old Ayuk and rally, and so that is going to be my pick.
You can rally. I love that. Certainly, I am also. I mean, Zach Wilson has just kind of tainted that team. Garrett Wilson is the lowest ranking receiver of the 3 on the year. He has had a bye week, so that's worth factoring in. But so has Brandon Ayuk. He's just coming off his bye, and of course, Jordan Addison will not have his bye until week 13. So I am between Ayuk and Addison, and you took Ayuk and Walters took Addison. So now I'm like, well. What do I do here? But I think I will go ahead and I'll ride with Addison. I think even though New Orleans is maybe the 3rd or 4th best defense we've played this year, I don't know if that means we'll have a different game plan. Is it who's their best corner? Is it Marshawn Lattimore? Or am I thinking too many years ago? I don't pay attention to the Saints defense like I used to.
I believe it is Marshawn Lattimore.
Well, if we're both wrong, we're going to look really silly. But last week, even with Joshua Dobbs, Jordan Addison, 97% snap share. He's never leaving the field, really. He had 7 targets for 5 receptions for 52 yards. So that's 7.5 yards per target, over 10 yards per catch. Didn't get in the end zone, but he has 10 touchdowns on the year. He has that ability. I'll go ahead and I'll continue to ride with Addison, hoping that we'll have to pass the ball a bit to keep up with or to overcome the Saints versus just running the rock with Madison. Walter's put in the chat with Debo back. I think that cuts Ayuk targets. I don't think so. I think Ayuk and Debo are pretty different players. But you know what? Walters has proved himself to be the superior fantasy mind, so we'll see. But Walters and I are going with Addison, and Josh is going with Brandon Ayuk. Josh, who are our tight end choices this week?
Tight ends this week, we've got Even Engram of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Then we've got George Kitty Cat Kittle at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So a couple matchups, or they're playing each other. And then we've got better than TJ Hawkinson or Jake Ferguson versus the New York Giants. Car, who take?
I noticed our choices are between a lot of players coming off the bye this week. So it's just convenient that I don't know if that was your choice or if that was Narfo's choice or whatever, but a lot of these players we're picking from are coming off their bye. And I guess there's only so many teams that were a bye last week, right? Anyway, sorry. That's a tangent that doesn't matter. Evan Ingram, he's been a solid fantasy tight end. He's fringe tight end 1. Right now he's ranked tight end 11. Of course, he's coming off his bye, so he's down a week compared to some players, though most players have had their bye by now. But Evan Ingram is a solid choice. His floor is 5 points in half-point PPR, and his ceiling so far for the season is 12, and he did just get that this last weekend, the weekend before the bye. He has not gotten a touchdown this year, so some could say there's certainly some positive touchdown regression coming his way. Playing a team like the 49ers, who knows what Trevor Lawrence can do. The 49ers have looked invincible, as Jack would say, these last couple weeks. So the 49ers are showing some weaknesses. Oh my God, I just broke a thing that was in my hand. Cool. George Kittle has been very hit and miss this year. He's had as low as 0 fantasy points with a 98% snap share. 0.6 points with a 98% snap share, and he's had as high as a 26.2 fantasy performance in half-point PPR. So he certainly has that big game allure that George Kittle's always had. That's why he's been looked at as one of the top tight ends for years, but he's not what he used to. He used to be, top 3. Now he's, more like top 5 to top 8, just because he can't put it together the way he used to. But the talent is still there. And then Jake Ferguson, he's just been a solid, steady option for the Cowboys. He's tight end 12, right behind Evan Ingram. He's had a couple worse games. His floor is a little bit lower. If I had to pick one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick George Kittle, just because I think he has the best opportunity. Evan Ingram playing that tough defense. Who knows what he's going to do? George Kittle, though, the 49ers are probably going to have to score a little bit more. And Jake Ferguson will probably be done by halftime because they're playing the Giants, being led by fucking Danny DeVito. So I'm taking George Kittle, and that doesn't feel close to me. Walters asks, what have been the stats for Fergie the last 3 weeks? Jake Ferguson, the last 3 weeks, they had a bye in week 7, so that's not as helpful. But in week 6, he had 1 target for 1 catch and 15 yards, so just 2 fantasy points and half-point PPR. In week 8, he had 4 catches for 47 yards and a tud. And in week 9 at Philly, he was on the field for 89% of the snaps, 10 targets, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and 1 touchdown. So the last 2 weeks, he's had a touchdown. But I'm taking George Kittle. And Josh, who do you think here between Ingram, Kittle, and Ferguson?
Well, I'm going to go with the Fergie.
Okay.
I think that he's found his groove in that offense. Dak's been solid. So Dak had back-to-back solid weeks. CD Lamb has been, I believe, the number one wide receiver in the past few weeks. And that hasn't hurt Ferguson at all. And yeah, I'm going to rock with Ferguson.
All right. Walters also went Ferguson in the chat. He also said, according to NBA Jam rules, he is heating up. I guess that'd also be beer pong rules. But yeah, so Jake Ferguson touched on the last 2 weeks. He's hoping to be on fire by this week. But I think you guys are going to look silly picking Ferguson with George Kittle on the board. You guys are going to be looking ridiculous. Josh, our last choice here, looking into the flex. We've got a couple different options here. Not the sexiest choices. One name is bigger than the three, but he won't be after. Even if not by now, by the end of this year, 2 players play for the same team. We've got Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, playing at Buffalo. So going from Mile High to Buffalo High. We have Zay Flowers, wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, playing versus Cleveland. And then his teammate in the backfield, we've got Gus Bus Edwards, running back for the Baltimore Ravens, playing versus Cleveland as well. Josh, if you had to pick between Jeudy, Flowers, or Edwards, who would you like to be your flex play this weekend and why?
I don't want any of them, but that Cleveland defense is pretty solid. I know Lamar's been heating it up, but I am hesitant to pick Flowers or Edwards. I feel like at Buffalo, they're going to have to be throwing the ball a little bit more. And so I'm going to go with Jeudy. And yes, the tone in which I said Jeudy should give you all the signs as to how comfortable I am with that.
Gotcha. I feel it. Yeah, I mean, Jerry Jeudy, they're coming off a bye, so you could try and argue with yourself that maybe Sean Payton has tried to fix this team. He hasn't. He won't. Not this year. But maybe there's something to redeem Jerry Jeudy. He did get his 1 touchdown of the season just 2 weeks ago before their bye, and he got it versus Kansas City. So maybe they'll have to have a similar offensive performance to try and keep up with Buffalo. Zay Flowers has been very solid for a rookie. He's only wide receiver 37, and he hasn't had a bye. He's been pretty hit or miss, much more popular in PPR formats. His last week was his worst week, though. Just 1 catch for 11 yards on 1 target even, and his snap share was the lowest of the year. OBJ is healthy. Some of their other pieces are healthy, so Zay Flowers is being put to the back seat just a bit. So you could argue Zay Flowers is trending down. Gus Edwards, he's been all over the place. He's been as low as an 18% snap share, which he had just last week. But just last week, he also had 2 touchdowns. So, what the hell is happening? He's had double-digit performances the last 3 weeks. I really don't know if I want to go with Gus Edwards, but I also don't know that I really want these other 3. I'll ride with Walters, and I'll go with Gus Edwards just for the touchdown potential. In the last 3 weeks, he's had 6 touchdowns, which obviously there will be some negative regression there. But I don't know. I have to pick someone, and so I'll pick someone who has some touchdown upside, and I'll take Gus Edwards. And I don't have a bonus start sit this week, Josh, but I have mentioned, I don't know if you want to pull up, I'll give you a second here, I'll vamp, but if you want to pull up either ESPN or Sleep or just any of our arbitrary leagues, for those who don't know, there's been a situation developing overnight, and I won't necessarily go into the details because I don't know the details, but apparently Michael Thomas, wide receiver for the Saints, is running into some sort of legal trouble, potentially. Might be fine for Sunday, might not be. If you, and let's just say you couldn't do a flex play, let's say you had to start a wide receiver instead for whatever reason. Out there on the waiver wire, if you weren't able to play Michael Thomas this week, who would you start in his place? Again, just picking any league, any arbitrary waiver wire. It's going to be bleak out there. But if you see any players on the waiver wire and you're like, well, if I had to play this player in a pinch because Michael Thomas is unavailable for Sunday's game, I would play this receiver. I think I've vamped long enough. Are you able to see any players out there, Josh, that appeal to you?
Hang on, I'm trying to. I had to decide what league. So
okay, it's fine, but it's just a tough situation. Like it's not necessarily a surprise, say, because we're finding out on Saturday morning versus on Sunday morning, but it's just like, golly, guy. But yeah,
golly, indeed. All right, so if you're saying flex, so I'm looking in the Hidden Oaks League because that is going to be the most people. As far as the flex goes, oh boy, yeah,
it's bleak out there.
Quit. I guess what league is this? What league are you talking about? Is it the Hidden Oaks League? Am I going to be helping you in a league that I'm trying to?
No, I do not have Michael Thomas in the Hidden Oaks League. I have Michael Thomas, I think, in the Champs League, and I have him in a Dynasty League. But yeah, I was just talking in general for people out there who might have Michael Thomas.
In general, taking a flyer, it may be it is probably not going to be the best option for you. The game log, but I'm thinking. Oh, no, okay. I think that it's possible that Trenton Irwin out of Cincinnati is a solid pick, a sneaky pick, not a solid pick. He's played 3 games this year. He's had at least 1 target in all 3 games. And so on the 1st of October, he had 1 target for 1 catch for 17 yards. On the 8th, so the next week, he had 10 targets. He had 8 catches. And then last week, he had 2 targets, 2 catches. And so he gets targets, he makes catches, and they just ruled T. Higgins out, and Chase is actually banged up and is kind of questionable. So he may be seeing a little bit more volume. And so he may be one of those sneaky plays if you're not comfortable putting in like a Jalen Rager or Brandon Cooks would be an okay. Demario Douglas, anybody like that.
All right, and I see in this. I just picked a random league for me as well. Noah Brown's still available. Probably got picked up in most leagues, but Noah Brown's out there. There's potential there. You could try and go on his same team. Rashid Shaheed is one of those fringe, probably roster players. So maybe if Michael Thomas is out, the production just goes to a different Saints receiver. But yeah, it's looking bleak out there. I think with Josh is
Derek Carr has kind of been
a white receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. You're getting desperate at that point.
Yeah, I mean Noah Brown would be a solid play. He did help me penetrate Walters last week in the Champions League.
Nice. All right, but that was my bonus start set. Josh, I don't have one this week because I'm a terrible host and I'm a terrible friend and a terrible everything else. But who do you got as your FanDuel bust this week?
I've got Jamar Chase versus Houston. Houston's defense has been pretty solid, but Jamar Chase is banged up. I did just see they're still questioning whether or not he plays. But for 9,300, I don't think it's worth the risk, especially if you set your lineups early and then you go and you're not paying attention. Noon game starts and then oh no, he's out. So I would say Jamar Chase is going to be my bust of the week. And then is there anything that you're excited for this week? Or what did you have something to say?
No, I was just going to say it sounds like Tyler Boyd could be a very sneaky play for the FanDuel if one or potentially 2 of their receivers is out. This weekend, Josh, I'm excited to see what Joshua Dobbs looks like after a week of practice. I honestly feel like for some reason, I know we're playing the Saints, which is a better team than the Falcons in general, but I mean, like, I think people's expectations will be too high after seeing what he was able to do last week. I think it is much more likely he looks more pedestrian this week. So I am excited to see what happens, but also I'm kind of bracing myself for, based on the fact that there's no way he'll be able to do what he did last week. And so just like, okay, what is Joshua Dobbs going to look like? How will he be more pedestrian? So that I'm more interested in than I think anything else. I'm interested to see what the CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow game looks like with T. Higgins out and potentially Jamar Chase banged up or maybe on a snap count if he plays, something like that. That could be very interesting. What's that?
Nico Collins is out.
Nico Collins is also out. So what does that mean for Tank Dell? Does he get, because that Cincinnati defense is sneaky good for people that don't know. So it's just a matter of, okay, does Tank Dell go off? Does Tank Dell get doubled and tripled all day? It'll be interesting to see. What about you, Josh? Are you excited to see that Green Bay Pittsburgh game? Or is that are you worried because Tomlin just sneaks wins everywhere all the time?
Yeah, no. It's not so much that Tomlin's sneaking wins and everything. It's more so that Packers are Packers.
Josh, does it hurt your soul to have to talk about the Packers like this after all those years of success?
Well, I mean, I've talked about them negatively in the past as well. There's, you can go back and listen to the tapes.
I know, but this is like week after week. It's just, it's not like all right, we got Rodgers, we can turn. I'm not even trying to shit on the Packers. I'm just asking, like, has your psyche changed this season over other seasons? I know you've said negative things in the past, but this is like week after week. There's no hope almost. There's
a little hope. I mean, geez, give us a break. But yeah, no, it hasn't been the most fun season, but I kind of expected it, and so we'll see. I don't know. I'm excited to watch our offensive line against TJ Watt.
All right. The Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Chargers should be a very exciting game. I expect a lot of scoring in that game, but I'm sure after I say that, it'll be like a 7-10 finish. Josh, a couple potential trap games here, and then we'll get out of here. I just want to get your quick thoughts. Do you think Dallas playing Danny DeVito, do you think that's going to be a trap game, and then Danny DeVito will be sneaky good, or do you think Dallas beats the Giants by 40 like they did last time?
Yeah, they're going to beat them by like 400.
All right. And then Monday night, Buffalo, Denver for some reason. What do you think about that one? Do you think Buffalo beats Denver by 40, or do you think that one's sneaky interesting because Buffalo usually plays to the level of their opponents versus blowing teams out like they could?
Yeah, I think it's going to be closer than people think just because they do play to their teams. They've had some weird games this year as well. So, yeah, I do think that is going to be a little bit more of a game as opposed to the other one.
As opposed to Danny DeVito, dude. All right.
Yep.
All right. We will go ahead and we will get out of here, Josh. We appreciate you for your analysis. Walters, we appreciate you for participating with us. I think, where's Al? Is Al like in Vegas or something? I don't know. I think he was taking a trip this weekend. Doesn't really matter, but he was not able to join us. But that's why we talk about Walters so much, because he's here with us. He's almost a part of the show at this point, but then as soon as we say that, then he'll get bad. So we just have to keep Walters on the fringe so he keeps working hard. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start playing the outro song, Josh, or start loading it. So you have about probably 5 seconds to say Go Packers. Anything else you want to say?
Go Packers. Go Packers. Go Packers. Go Packers.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We love you, and we will see you Tuesday night.
Go Packers.
There you go. Get it in one more time.
Go Packers.
Ooh, I missed this in the chat. Sorry. For those who are listening to the Michael Thomas start set, our fantasy correspondent Walters, he said Romeo Doubs potentially, Robert Woods, Jamison Williams, or Kyle Phillips were choices to look at. So Walters proving himself to be the superior Saturday morning fantasy mind. Those are 4 more names for you: Doubs, Woods, Williams, and Phillips.
That we should invest more troops in the war.
Which war specifically? There's a couple at the moment.
The war on social media.
Oh, okay. What kind of troops are those?
Well, since it is a global war, I said we should invest more in utilizing COD and Fortnite players between the ages of 10 and 15 to train our soldiers.
You know what, Josh? That might be the smartest idea you've ever had.
Well, I did go to 6 years of college.
Did you stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night?
No? Why?